summer of 2019. This is just pre-pandemic. You end up on tour with the Trews. So you mentioned this already. Somehow I've seen those guys probably 10 times live. There was a period of time where they were on tour with, I'm a fan. I've owned several of their albums. They were on tour with other bands that I loved constantly. So they're on tour with Matt Mays. They were on tour with Sam Roberts. And I just like every time I went to see a band I liked, the Trews were a part of that. And I've gone to see just them alone. Those guys can play guitar and they bring the rock and roll to every show.
Those guys have a great repertoire of songs and a great set. It's a really, really fun show, right? And the cool thing about them, like they love working, they love touring. They'll go into all the little smaller markets and stuff too, right? So they hit all the little pockets, right? Where it's not just in the Toronto, Winnipeg, Saskatoon. They do all little small towns too, right? And they do big shows and small shows, right? They just want to work. And yeah, they were great to work for. Really nice guys, and great crew. I was with a guy named Josh McIntosh and Rob Metzler's been with them for 15 years. Monitor Tech, and one of the best guys out there. So yeah, it was really fun to work with those guys. Right, it was just so happened like when I was stopped working with 3 Days Grace. It's just like that summer looked like I need some holes to fill. I was working, but I just had some holes to fill and just contacted. I think it was through management, just through acquaintance or contact, and yeah, and they needed a guy at the time, so it was a lot of fun to go out with them. Appreciated the work a lot at the time. So
And their music and their songs are very conducive to the live atmosphere. So it translates well because it's songs that pump you up and people want to be a part of.
oh, for sure. Yeah, their set's a party for sure, right? It's definitely. I think they've been like that since day one. Because I saw them back in the day too, a few times, like working Canadian Music Week. I think they were actually opening up for it was 3 Days Grace and Thornley, and then the Trews were on. I think it was actually 3 Days Grace first, to be honest, and then the Trews. So right from day one, I was like, oh, this is a party band, right? That's what then they had like not ready to go. They closed with it, and the songs on the radio, so people were already singing it too. I'm like, yeah, these guys are going. It was just at the very start, so it's cool, kind of full circle down the line, coming working with them again, right?
So in preparation for this interview, I went on Facebook and I joined the fan groups for all the bands that you've worked with.
Right.
I got in there to see what questions they'd want me to ask to get some inside scoops. And we have a question coming from the official Trews Fans Network. So this is a big fan group for the Trews on Facebook. So this is from Jeanette Brissett Condon. She says, you must be ecstatic to be on the road again. Any venues you prefer doing sound in now that you've been to quite a few, and any challenges you face technically? So it's kind of wide open, but any challenges you face?
Yeah, well, it's a different ball game every night, right? Depending on the venue. Some venues are similar. When you're doing a soft theater run, like in theaters, right? It's got its challenges, but if you're doing those every night, with your digital console, it can kind of remain fairly the same. So it gets, a little easier and stuff. But, I really like doing theaters because it's a nice close feeling and everything seems controlled. But my all-time favorite is just open air festivals. You got a nice big PA. There's 20,000 people there. It's a nice big flat field, and the sound just goes, and it's not bouncing off of things like in an arena or at a theater or a club, right? So yeah, the open air festivals, they're just so much fun. And it's not even just the way it's sounding; it's the environment. Like you're outside, the sun's shining. Not all the time. Sometimes you get the rain that can get a little crappy, but yeah, man, those summer festivals are where it's at for me for sound, just that vibe overall.
Recently, I saw a concert in a glass building. So it's like it would be a nightmare for you. Like just me saying that, it's like nails across the chalkboard. So it's this this little town had a great band called The Commotion that were playing, and normally in that building it's like a farmer's market or something, and so it's 100% glass. And yeah, how much of a nightmare is that for a sound guy? Like everything's reflective. It's
It's
tough.
yeah. the key to that is just keeping your volume as low as
The
possible.
key to that is to not do a show in that
Yeah,
venue.
there you go. Key is to say no. But yeah, if you're in an environment like that, yeah, it's just keeping like get the musicians to, either turn the amps around or hopefully they're going direct, through a modeling amp or something like that, and if you can plexi shield in the drums or something, like that. Because that's any a rock band, just forward facing amps, live drums and stuff. That's a nightmare. So you're basically just trying to get a little body in there with the subs and make sure the vocals are on top, right, and try to balance it out. It's more of the sound reinforcement than just being a mixer, right? You're getting your stage level, right? That you're getting off the band, off the stage, and then you're just kind of mixing the elements that are missing, like the like kick drum and the vocal, and just trying to balance that out and keep it as low as possible.
How much do bodies absorb sound? So I guess the question is, let's say you're doing sound, you're doing sound, it's a 10,000 person venue, and one night there's 10,000 people and one night only 1,000 people show up. How much do those bodies actually absorb sound? And do you actually have to raise the volume on a night where there's more bodies? I guess it's just a random question that I've thought of before.
Yeah, absolutely. And the answer is drastically. It can
Oh,
change
wow.
everything, especially depending on the environment. They can go back to talking about theaters. Theaters aren't as bad because all the seats are there and they're normally cushioned, right? So you're getting like the core sound of that the theater is there, right? And the bodies are going to change it a little bit. But when you get into an arena, it can change drastically, right? Because there's
With the floor?
yeah, mainly the floor for me, because when you get the PA, it is in the air, and you're going to get those reflections anyway. Because it's normally off the roof and off the back wall and all that. But I really find it changed the low end response because even though low end travels a little more strongly than those upper frequencies, it's just when you got those subs and they're just piling at you, and there's nobody on the floor, and it's just concrete. You're getting those reflections and you bring all those people. So number one, it's an obstacle. It's got to go around, and what it's doing, and it's softening all those reflections, those multiple reflections off of that concrete floor, right? So your low end can really change. So you got to be really careful with that. But yeah, it's just it can change it drastically. I find that's why when I get into a sound check into arena, I'll do certain things. I do a lot of stuff on headphones, checking individual sources, make sure things are okay. Main thing is ringing out your live vocals, so any backup and main vocal mics, to make sure that they're rock solid and that they're not going to screech on you and that they're up and over top. And then it's just making sure that all your elements are there and not going too crazy on sound check and killing your mix. Because I've gotten to, back in the day, I'd overcorrect and overmix during my sound checks, and I learned pretty quickly that if you had a good show on this file, the night before in the arena, don't go too crazy. Just wait till the people get here, and just to make sure that your sources are not going to feedback and that they're there and rock solid. And then it's that first 30 seconds, crazy busy, right? You'll see if for any listeners out there that aren't sound guys and stuff, you watch any guy in the first song of any band, I don't care if it's Coldplay or U2, and like high level, right? They're busy, those first, especially the first 30 seconds and the first couple minutes. So they're correcting, and boom, like their mix is in place, and then the show rolls from there.